Chapter 2, The Big Move to the USA, Dealing with Change. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Harold R. McClellan. I had heard of people leaving their homes and their countries to better their lives by seeking an education. And for the life of me, I never thought it would be possible for me. Unfortunately, when I completed my high school career with merely average grades, I was unable to get into the one local university in Zimbabwe. I was incredibly disappointed and angry with myself for not having better grades, even though I had worked my tail off hoping to get good grades. I had to repeat my senior year in order to seek better grades, and again I failed to get accepted into the university. In those days, most of the girls I went to school with were getting married and starting families. Only a lucky few had gone to seek higher education. I had a boyfriend at the time who wanted very badly to get married to me, but I was not about to stop my life and become a housewife. I wanted to better my education, to be a better partner to my husband, independent, and have the ability to care for myself and my family if, God forbids, I got divorced or my husband decided to practice polygamy. Unfortunately, I promised him I would come back and marry him after I finished school, and have stayed for over 20 years now. Yes, he later married, and we are best friends today. He's actually my big brother, as he is older than me. I had always heard that where there's a will, there's a way. I had to seek a way to make sure I could pursue my education. My uncle, who is a United Methodist minister, Reverend Sanda Sanganza, had been in the United States a great deal while working on church missions and for education purposes. I immediately went to him and asked for his help in applying to colleges in the United States. I wanted to come to the United States to further my education, to expand my horizons, and yes, to fulfill my inner desire of becoming more than just a mere housewife. My parents had done well and worked very hard to obtain what they had acquired by that time. I left for the USA. I wanted to be more than a young woman with average grades. I yearned to become the leader that they had deemed me from such an early age. My mother always said without fail, "What you see here is mine and my husband's hard work. This is ours. You have to work for your own." She was not kidding, and we are so glad we also took her seriously. As Confucius rightly suggests, wherever you go, go with all your heart. I now know, looking back, how important it was that we pursue our dreams with all our hearts. Focusing our entire being on making the necessary changes for our own personal joy is imperative. If we are completely focused on our goal, it becomes far easier to achieve. At some point in my life, I recognized that my life in Zimbabwe had pockets of both sad and joyful moments. My childhood was an edifying experience and offered endless challenges. I now had to create endless opportunities for growth for myself. The power was within me, but I had to make the necessary changes and convince my parents that to have a good life, I had to make it happen myself. At one point, I believed, like most people, that my parents had to make sure I would get the best life possible. Then when I was rejected from the university, I thought, oh well, I guess I better consider marriage and call it quits. There were many external, immediate, reactionary thoughts, but that inner voice was so strong. I could hear it saying that I could make it. I deserved more. So I listened. Once I gave up believing that others held my joy, I breathed a sigh of relief and accepted that to better my life, I had to make the right choices and act on them. Many people I have grown to know still rely on others to make their lives better, to give them the go-ahead to make choices in their lives. I can only imagine the struggle to get free that most go through, especially those who have experienced a difficult childhood and the parents are now gone. It is for this reason I write this book, to start the healing process so that you too can live your best life. At age 21, I got to choose. I chose to leave my home country of Zimbabwe and pursue an education instead of getting married and settling for being a housewife. My uncle helped me get into National College in Rapid City, South Dakota, here in the USA. I have to say that was so important for me to get my parents' approval and support in order to make this big change and leave home. Even though I was only 21, my parents decided to have my father, who had never left the country, accompany me to the USA so that he could see for himself where I was going and what life was like in this foreign place he had never seen. We arrived at National College 2 weeks early and were told that school was opening in 2 weeks. So there were only a few staff members on campus preparing for students to arrive. My father refused to leave me if there was no other students on campus. So off we flew back to Zimbabwe so that I could come back with everyone else. I'm also told that the paperwork also needed additional information from Zimbabwe. I look at my father accompanying me not as a crazy gesture, but as unconditional love from my dad, who has always been a very protective and loving father. He probably has no idea that his and my mother's unconditional love and belief in my abilities played a big role in how I would adjust to and cope with the changes I faced when I arrived back in the USA. One of the very first challenges I faced happened at the New York LaGuardia airport. I had come back with a whole baked chicken, rice, and vegetables because when I came with my father, the local food had no taste. Because we did not have many US dollars, we survived on peanuts and ginger ale because we both love peanuts and they were cheap and tasty, so we settled for them as a meal. So when I came back by myself and brought back my whole chicken, I was not anticipating the reception I received at the airport. To my utmost devastation, I was not allowed to come into the USA with my chicken and rice. The immigration officers put me in a small holding room and questioned me as to why I had come into and left the country so quickly. They also wanted to know why I was back and why I was bringing in cooked food. This was too overwhelming and very intimidating for me. I missed my dad already. I was given a chance to eat as much as I could in the holding room and had to trash the rest. I ate all I could and threw out the rest. This was my food for a week or two. I was devastated. Even today, I get so upset because the roasted chicken smelled and looked so good. My mother and my late aunt, Dorothy Matlatini Chisho, had cooked it for me, and those officers made me throw it out. Oh well, such is life in these United States of America. After 9/11, I understand the need for such stringent rules regarding food being brought in the country. My next immediate challenge that I won't forget was during my second week at the school when I found a job in the business office that paid $2.50 an hour. I was elated I could work because at this time, besides tuition, my parents had difficulty getting foreign currency. My excitement did not last long. I was called by the business manager in her office. She told me what a good worker I was. However, people in the office were concerned about the odor that I had. I smelled really bad, she said. If I were Caucasian like her, I would have turned red. I was shocked. I was hurt. But most of all, I was embarrassed. She asked what kind of shampoo I used and the name of the soap, and when I told her that the brands I was using, which were from Zimbabwe, she quickly said I had to change and buy something from the USA because they would smell better. The problem, I had no money. So with tears in my eyes, I told her I had no money and would have none until I got paid. She offered to buy me the soap, perfume, and shampoo I needed. As much as I was grateful, my self-esteem was now very, very low. Not only was I struggling to acclimate myself to this new environment, Now I had to worry about bad odor. I couldn't pass it for discrimination because I figured it was gracious of her to tell me. Very brave, too. Why am I telling such an embarrassing moment to the world, you might ask? I tell this story because of the adolescent girls I love and work with, as well as the women who have a self-esteem story to tell and who need to let go. Self-esteem is your opinion of yourself, which for most of us is defined by what others have said about us from childhood. High self-esteem is when you have a good opinion of yourself, and low self-esteem is when you have a bad opinion of yourself. When an event like the one above happens, your self-esteem plummets even further, and most struggle to mend the wounds. Since self-esteem is all about how much we feel valued, loved, accepted, and thought well of by others, and how much we value, love, and accept ourselves, when I was told I smelled, I felt worthless. This was a poignant point in my life. I could have taken it in many different ways, thinking this was a racial confrontation, thinking this was the end of my dreams, everyone will always think I smell, or making it into an opportunity to build up my self-esteem and care for myself as suggested by this nice lady. It was very brave of her to have the courage that she had. I have no doubt in my heart she meant well. This is one of those situations that is difficult no matter how one looks at it. I had an opportunity to host someone from Africa in my home about 10 or so years later. And yes, they too had an odor that was very strong. And this time, because I now was accustomed to the USA smell, whatever that is, I smelled the difference. I did not say anything. I just made sure they had soap, lotion, perfumes ready in the bathroom to help them rid of this odor, as I was worried about how people would react when they left home. Until today, I never told them my story or that I detected a strong smell, which made me realize why in my early years I had been helped by the lady at National College. I have had to build up a healthy self-esteem throughout the years, and I'm now able to feel good about myself, appreciate my own worth, and take pride in my abilities, skills, and accomplishments. How did I do it? I finished and graduated high school, my ticket to a better world. I then attended and graduated from 4 universities, attended a lot of conferences, seminars, and grooming classes, pursued my skills and abilities through higher education. And most of all, I did it by working with young adolescents and women. This situation actually fueled my ambition to become somebody and to have the independence to smell good and to look good when I needed to. I now always make sure that I own only designer perfumes and soaps to never smell bad again. Don't get me wrong. For a moment, I thought this situation was definitely an example of discrimination. I was the only black person in the office. To help me adjust to the USA, my parents sent my sister Stabile Matlatini Kahari, to live with me after I had been at the school for only 1 quarter, because I missed home so much and cried to them all the time that I couldn't make it. Her arrival meant that I had family here, that I had a partner. Together we could support and encourage each other, which really helped. The joy was short-lived, as after the first year, Dad was not able to afford the required foreign currency. We had to make another drastic choice to move from Rapid City, South Dakota to Boston, Massachusetts, where a friend of mine had told us that there were jobs in the nursing homes that paid $8 an hour. This was heaven sent. We could now have the opportunity to work and pay for our school, so I thought. I ended up working for a year before I could afford to get back to school. My sister and I stayed with a friend who was gracious enough to take us in when we moved to Boston, and because our home was very small for 2 more people, we had to take turns sleeping. Even though there were many challenges associated with this living arrangement, I am choosing to focus on gratitude and to tell you that my sister and I made a decision to work for a year, get our own place, buy a car together. It turned out to be the best decision we ever made because it was no easy task living with other people. When it comes to getting what you want, challenges, problems can be stepping stones you need to take you to higher ground. This reminds me of the story of the horse who fell into a dry well. The owner was so devastated as the hole was so deep and difficult for the horse to climb out. The owner and some of his neighbors decided there was no hope and started burying the horse alive. They threw in sand to cover the hole. However, as they were throwing the sand down the hole, the horse simply went over the sand, shook it off his back, and kept climbing up until he was rescued. The sand became the horse's stones. Many view problems, challenges, as a means to an end. I have seen these challenges as stepping stones to who I have become. I believe each trouble is a permanent design that helps me get stronger. I struggle with the high school youth I counsel who demand respect from teachers and adults instead of biting their tongues and striving to get an education that will earn them eternal respect. I tell them all the time that most of the things they get away with, I would not have attempted with my parents because I was put in my place. The same applies to employees who choose to butt heads with their superiors instead of earning their respect or gaining the experience that will elevate them to higher paying positions. This should not be taken in the wrong way. I do know that there are some teachers and employers that can benefit from an attitude check from time to time. However, this should not be the child's role to tell of these teachers. I believe that it is even more puzzling to me that there are no consequences in schools or homes for some of the behaviors I have witnessed. How did I adjust and finally make it through school? I worked 2 jobs. I worked 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the nursing home as a nursing assistant, which was nurse's aide at that time. Went to school from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., then went to work at a residential program from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. so that I would have time to get back to the next nursing home. Sleep was a luxury. It was often difficult to stay focused due to the lack of sleep. The thought of the freedom and the opportunity of living independently gave me the confidence to successfully carry this schedule until I graduated with my bachelor's degree. I paid for my classes, but because I could not afford a full course load, I went part-time for about 7 years and obtained my first 2 degrees, an associate degree in business administration and a bachelor's degree in liberal arts that way. This was a bittersweet achievement, because it took me so long and it took a lot out of me to make this happen. The thrill of graduation and the delight of knowing I could be successful later drove me right back into seeking a higher and higher education. Lessons learned. The move from Zimbabwe to the USA had a lot of lessons in store for me. I learned that wherever I faced and whatever circumstances weigh us down, we can always choose the way we respond to them. I have this quote I made for my youth that states, "It's not what happens to you or who said what to you that matters. It is the way you respond that matters. How you live your life is totally up to you. It is not dependent upon your circumstances. It is totally dependent on your choices." In seeking a better life, our outer circumstances might change while our inner conversation might stay the same, especially if we are holding on to the ancient, angry, or painful memories. Our interior life is ours to shape, and like psychic baggage, it follows us wherever we go. Sometimes in the winds of change, we find our true direction. So what challenges have you faced? We all face challenges. The key is not having certain challenges to face, but in how we handle the challenges we do face. I have been a guest speaker at many conferences. And each time I'm reminded of how difficult it is to adjust to life in this country, and of how many people continue to struggle to obtain basic needs when they arrive in the USA. One other lesson for me was to be open to the idea of change, to show a willingness to start afresh despite my background or my origins. I had to take whatever work was available. I lived in the church basement for a while. I accepted hand-me-downs and food from the generous people from the church who helped us whatever it took. I never lost sight of where I was going, and that helps. I never lost hope, and I kept dreaming and seeking opportunities here in America, this land of opportunity. I believe God had bigger plans for me. I held on to Jeremiah 29, verse 1. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. No job was too small, no offer of help was too demeaning. It all helped me to get to where I wanted to go, to get an education, to find work that would pay me substantial money or to allow me to run my own business. It is critical to know where you're going, to have a direction. A dose of motivation. Life does not always present us with an ideal situation in which everything works out according to our plans and our wishes. That is where your belief, beyond anything you've ever done, the faith and action that will move mountains, comes in. We must motivate ourselves to do what we must do to get on with our lives. We have to create the life that we want. But first, you have to decide what you want in your life. Many of the people I know are working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, building homes back in Zimbabwe or maintaining business back in Zimbabwe. My question is, have you decided when and how you enjoy that home? When will you enjoy the benefits of your business? For those that are just working and not seeing how they can get back to school, start a business, or build back home if that is what they desire, I say to you, it's possible. You can start by answering the questions below, determining what you want, and making time to get it. We all have 24 hours in the day. It's how you choose to use your 24 hours that matters. You do not need money to start pursuing your dream. It helps along the way, but your decision to know where you want to go and what you want is what truly matters. The way will come. Trust in the Lord to do His part and to carry you through. You have to believe that it's possible. So let's start your journey to a life of your own making by answering the following. What do you want in life? Do you feel worthy of achieving everything you desire? Are there things in your past that have made you feel unworthy? What can you do to encourage yourself, to raise your self-esteem, and to be worthy of the life you wish for?